Good evening. This is the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. Coup in Guinea-Bissau as military takes over, president arrested. Senate proposes death penalty for kidnappers. President Tinubu sends 3 ambassadorial nominees to Senate for confirmation, and ADC leaders hold closed-door meeting in Abuja. Details now. Thank you for staying tuned. The World News at 6 begins with military authorities in Guinea-Bissau today declaring that they have assumed full control of the country, announcing the suspension of all electoral activities and an immediate closure of national borders. The development comes just 3 days after the nation conducted its legislative and presidential elections. The declaration followed reports of heavy gunfire earlier in the day around the presidential palace in Bissau. The announcement was delivered from the army headquarters in the capital, where senior military officers read out a statement confirming the takeover and outlining the steps being implemented as part of their control. Back home in Nigeria, the Senate has adopted a resolution categorizing kidnapping as a form of terrorism and calling for amendment to the Terrorism Act to ensure the stricter punishment is applied. During today's plenary session, senators agreed that any individual convicted of kidnapping should automatically face the death penalty once the law is revised. The decision reflects growing concerns about the rising rate of abductions in the country and the urgent need for stronger deterrent measures. Lawmakers emphasize that this move is aimed at curbing the menace and sending a strong warning to citizens. Meanwhile, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives Idris Wasser today said bandits were threatening to abduct members of the National Assembly. He stated this during the resumption of debate on national security in the lower chamber, calling on President Bola Tinubu to review his directive on the withdrawal of police operatives attached to very important personalities, VIPs. President Tinubu had on Sunday ordered the withdrawal of police officers at a security meeting in Abuja, attended by service chiefs and the Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS. The president directed the police authorities to deploy them to concentrate on their core police duties, a situation that mandated the Special Protection Unit of the Nigerian Police Force to order all officers attached to VIPs and bits nationwide to return to their bases. Under the new arrangement, President Tinubu said VIPs requiring security protection will now need to request armed personnel from the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) rather than relying on police officers. The presidency explained that the move aims to boost police presence in communities, especially in remote areas where police stations are often understaffed and citizens remain vulnerable to attacks. But Wase says the president should spell out the categorization of VIPs, saying there was a time when Boko Haram terrorists were found on the list of recruits in the army and in the police force. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has forwarded the list of 3 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the submission during Wednesday's plenary session aired on the National Assembly's YouTube channel. The nominees include Kayode Are from Ogun State, Aminu Dalhatu from Jigawa State, and Ayodele Oke. Since taking office in 2023, the president is yet to appoint any ambassadors, a delay that has drawn criticism. Meanwhile, leaders of the African Democratic Congress (ADC) are currently holding a high-profile meeting in Abuja. The gathering is taking place at the party's newly inaugurated national headquarters in the Wuse area of the capital. In attendance are ADC National Chairman Senator David Mack, former Secretary to the Government of the Federation Babachir Lawal, and former Kaduna State Governor Malam Nasir El-Rufai. Also present are former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi, former ADC National Chairman Dr. Ralph Ngosu, and the party's National Publicity Secretary Malam Balaji Abdullahi. While the purpose of the meeting has not been officially disclosed, sources told journalists that discussions are likely to focus on the nation's growing insecurity and strategic plans for the ADC ahead of the 2027 general elections. The meeting brings together coalition partners working to strengthen the party as a formidable opposition to the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC). This development comes days after former Vice President Atiku Abubakar collected his membership registration card with the ADC. You're listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. A chieftain of the All Progressives Congress APC in Kwara State, Abdul Rauf Bello, says the federal government's non-declaration of bandits as terrorists is a major challenge in addressing the renewed wave of insecurity in Nigeria. Bello spoke today while being featured on a monitored television program. He noted that it is a major lacuna, especially considering the kind of decisive action that President Donald Trump expects from the Nigerian government. The APC chieftain asked the federal government to make amendments to the constitution and return the country to a regional system of administration. He described this as a factory setting that will return the country to the path to prosperity. He noted that the solution to insecurity in Nigeria is to go back to factory setting, that is regionalism. Let's take a listen to the APC chieftain speaking on this situation earlier today.
The bandits are, jihadists. I gave them that classification because, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of any law enacted by the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria declaring these people as terrorists. And that is a very great lacuna that has been hindering the federal government to give them the terrorist treatment, the type of which President Donald Trump is expecting from the government of Nigeria. That is why those people are yet to be declared by the federal government as terrorists.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Now joining us for a banter session right here on the World News at 6, I have Jerry Apeloai. Jerry, thank you so much for joining me this evening. How are you doing?
Yeah, good evening, Sharma.
Good evening to you. It's a lot of things are happening in the Nigerian political space and security space as well. Some Nigerians say that there is something wrong with our intelligence. You know that on the floor of the Senate today, there was a debate on why the military withdrew from the school in Kebbi just 30 minutes before the terrorists struck. Even the governor of Kebbi State is asking the same question. If the governor does not have the answers, who then are they asking? Who has the answers? And when we actually look at insecurity, now we have even politicians, reps members fearing for their lives. A rep member is begging for help, saying President Tinubu should not withdraw the police from them, saying the terrorists are now issuing threats against the National Assembly. Do you also remember when we're told that the terrorists are issuing threats to bomb the National Assembly? Is it that now the insecurity seems that it's getting closer to their doorstep, and that's why they want to fast track action? That is, Nigerians are not very important personalities, but our political elite are, and they do not want the police to be withdrawn from them so that the terrorists will not get through to them.
The average politician all around the world are wired to be selfish, and it's even more particular when it comes to African leaders. Everybody is all out for themselves, and the masses are left on their own. And if you expect the politicians to want to take care of themselves, because if you take a look at the status quo in terms of budget, in terms of allocations, you find out that the politicians take the biggest share over Nigerians who has the larger population. Because if you take a look at the coefficient of politicians, what they earn monthly, and to the average Nigerian civil servants and other Nigerians out there in terms of minimum wage, and so you see that the disparity is quite very high. And you expect such kind of politician with such who has amassed so much wealth, definitely they will be afraid to die to leave those humongous amounts of money they've been able to steal from the purse of the federal government. But it shows that our politicians, at the end of the day, it's all about what they do for themselves. Democracy is supposed to be the government of the people, by the people, for the people. But what we've seen in Nigeria in recent times has been the government of the politicians, by the politicians, and for the politicians, which does not tell well for our democracy, which we were excited about. Since Baba Sejon came on board, we thought that we've seen El Dorado. Nigeria is going to move away from successive rods under military rule, that we're going to see something different. What we've seen so far, it's been lackadaisical approach in terms of governance. Leadership is not taken seriously. Everything is all about looting and self-enrichment. Nothing about leadership, nothing to show that the future is bright as far as democracy is concerned. They're making Nigerians feel that democracy is now looking like a mistake, which is not supposed to be. It's supposed to have taken Nigeria is supposed to be leading as far as Africa is concerned. Take a look at coup that's happening all around West Africa. It's because countries like Nigeria has made people to understand that democracy is not the answer for Africa, but which is very rather unfortunate, because when we're even having our political parties being branded as terrorist organizations abroad, and of course we even see the president of America coming out to tell the world that that disgraced country, and our politicians is making it easy for people to see the country as a disgraced one. It shows that, I don't know, our leaders just wake up from the bed every night, every morning, and they feel the status quo is okay. They are not even willing to make changes. There's no drastic move to show that these people actually, they don't even pretend anymore. It's out there. They are telling the world that they don't care about the people. It's all about themselves, because now the bandits have focused on them, that they are going to go after them. And I believe a lot of Nigerians will even be excited if the politicians start dropping the way people have been dropping, all because bandits are going after them because they are vulnerable. And I think a lot of Nigerians were excited when the government said they were going to withdraw police from VIPs and so on and so forth. Imagine our forests are not well policed, our areas, communities are not well policed, because the VIPs are enjoying the largest share of security coverage, which is not supposed to be, because even the coefficient of the police, even with the VIPs not having the police, is still not enough. But at the end of the day, the police that's not enough to cover over 200 million Nigerians, we still have a larger share of that one that is not enough to cover Nigerians, still taking care of the VIPs. It's pretty sad, it's pretty unfair. And at the end of the day, even the police on the street, most of them prefer to protect the VIPs, because they get certain extra codes, unlike those who go about picking 20 naira and 200 naira just to make themselves happy and feel good. You go to their barracks, there's nothing to live for. And of course, most of them, at the end of the day, they prefer to even take care of the VIPs, because that is where they will get extra codes from.
Do you support the Senate's proposition of a death penalty for kidnappers in Nigeria? They believe that this would actually curb the menace and also send a strong warning to criminals. And while the Senate is proposing death penalty for kidnappers, what about terrorists and terrorism, which seem to now be a very profitable business in Nigeria? We have many more terrorist enclaves coming up because they've seen Nigeria as a fertile ground, and then we see them in different communities in different areas. There was a viral video of a particular person in Edo State who said he's a bandit, and then he was issuing threats. We've heard about them being in Edo and even in Lagos. It seems the closer it comes to the people, the more the outcry. But after that outcry, what happens? The Nigerian government told us about 2-3 days ago that they have decided to accept help from the United States in terms of defense equipment and sharing intelligence. One question is, when will this begin? And the second question is, how exactly are we expecting this to help Nigerians? And also, what does the US stand to gain from that? But most importantly, when will this begin, so that the people understand just how serious this administration is about fighting insecurity? Yesterday, I spoke with the national chairman of all APC spokespersons in the country, and he said that Nigerians seem to be impatient with the president, and that this can be chalked down to the fault of the opposition, who give destructive criticism. They're not trying to help the government, they're trying to tear down the government and make the people feel that this government is not doing anything.
Yeah, I laugh at that spokesman, because it looks like the spokesman has short memory. Because if my memory serves me right, when the APC was in the opposition, they were the ones who cried to the United States under Barack Obama's government, saying that Nigeria is facing a lot of challenges when it comes to terrorism, and the government is doing nothing, and the country was declared is a country of interest. And now it's the other way around. And I believe the last time we checked, I didn't see ADC or PDP going to America to complain about the genocide, Christian genocide, and so on and so forth. It was more or less a Nigerian citizen who felt that he has made a lot of complaints to the government, and the government has shown no sense of leadership, no sense of responsibility in terms of taking care of the security of the lives of Nigerians. That is why they have to take their matter to the American government, because when your system fails and you try to look for blames, and I think it's high time the APC wake up and take leadership seriously, because it's high time Nigerians know that they are ready to lead, instead of looking at what detractors are saying about them. Because leadership is all about the buck stops on your table. That's how the Americans think as leaders. That's how the president of America thinks. They don't negotiate with terrorists. We've seen our government opening negotiation table for terrorists. That's already surrendering your sovereignty. And of course, I laugh at a lot of politicians who go about telling us that, are you encouraging America to invade us and so on and so forth, that's taking away our sovereignty. Let me tell you, most of those bandits in the bushes are not even Nigerians. They're coming from the Sahel region. They have been chased away from little West African countries who don't have the military might that Nigeria is supposed to enjoy. Because let's not forget, back in the days, Nigeria was going on ECOMOG. ECOMOG was going to save the likes of Liberia and Sierra Leone from civil war. So what happened to that same military today? That same military is afraid of some bandits who just possess some few bits of AK-47. But we've seen a situation where
Jerry, it is not few bits. If you see the kind of weapons of mass destruction
the thing is that
these people own and control, it's absolutely not few bits. Look at it.
Let me tell you one thing.
The Nigerian government told us that the girls who were kidnapped in Kebbi State have been released, or they've been recovered. They got them back, and they say, oh, they just spoke to the bandits, spoke to the terrorists, and these girls were returned. It's not as if any ransom was paid or anything like that. But many Nigerians don't believe it. The opposition does not believe it. Even many people around the APC do not believe it. Why are these people not arrested?
I've seen a lot of propaganda being spread around everywhere.
By whom?
By a lot. The thing is that when people are driven by fear, a lot of information will be spreading out. They are making this bandit look like they're one fantastic thing. They are big and they cannot be dealt with. Let me tell you, these bandits are mostly trained through guerrilla warfare. In terms of most of the time they walk through ambush and try as much as possible to go for light targets, because at the end of the day, no matter how you see it, Boko Haram, for instance, is not as powerful as it used to be back in the days. The military has been able to successfully, face to face, been able to deal with them. Of course, they moved to another strategy, splitting themselves into banditry and making sure that they attack light spots because they are vulnerable. The thing is that the government needs to change tactics in the way they attack terrorism. The thing is that I've seen a system where we are not evolving. Terrorism is evolving every day in terms of these guys are developing new tactics on how to cause mayhem and cause terror. And I see the way social media is blowing this up. It's giving the terrorists much leverage to believe that they are on the winning side, and they glorify them so much and believe that they are become invisible. They have so many people in government, they have so many people in military that's helping them out, and so on and so forth. So it makes it look as if they are invisible, they are untouchable. No, that is not the case, because by the time we begin to drive the message among lines and the citizens begin to believe that these bandits are next to nothing, the government are covering them, somebody in the government is protecting them, and so on and so forth, they begin to feel that they are invisible, they are untouchable. No, these bandits are not untouchable, they are out there. For even a government official to come on TV and tell us that they spoke to the bandits and the bandits decided that they should surrender and were willing to release the Kwara abductees,
the people who were kidnapped from CAC Church.
It shows that our leaders are even making this idea that to make people believe that the government is complicit, and it shows that leadership in Nigeria has now become a joke. People who are on the corridors of power don't show leadership, don't show any form of intelligence, which is rather poor, because Nigerians are known to be intelligent people, and if the less intelligent of us are the one leading us, I think we're in a very precarious situation. That is why the bandits are beginning to have sway, because they know that those who are supposed to challenge them don't have the intelligent capacity to do so, which is pretty sad. But that is unfair to some of the military officers who are intelligent enough to at least being able to qualify, because if these bandits have had their way with the way people have been giving them so much appraisal and so on and so forth, I believe you will be here all be afraid. Nigeria would have been a country at war.
So is it time for the federal government to declare these bandits as terrorists?
It's so long overdue.
Into law, just like this APC.
Should we even need to tell them?
And also, this death penalty that's been proposed for kidnapping, for terrorism, should also come into place. You know, one of the situations that Nigerians have been talking about most is Nnamdi Kanu's sentence, and saying that is a very good ground for you to say every other terrorist should also be sentenced to life imprisonment. We saw one Boko Haram commander that was sentenced last week to 20 years imprisonment. How exactly can the government say that they are very serious about fighting insecurity if they do not go after the people who are involved? Yesterday, Canada issued a travel advisory to their citizens saying don't travel to so and so country due to communal clashes and the fragile state of the country, and that the in most of these countries the government no longer has control of the country. And they're telling their citizens not to travel to these countries and saying, if you're already in this country, please come back home, because they don't want to be involved in rescue efforts when things go south. Right now, there was a report of a military coup in Guinea-Bissau. The military announced a takeover and suspended the electoral process. This is coming just 3 days after election results were announced, and the president has also been arrested. This was also one of the fears in that memo that was issued by the Canadian embassy to their citizens, all in some of these African countries, specifically 17 African countries. Now, this is a palpable fear in many African countries, West African countries especially. We can see Mali just close to us here. We can see Burkina Faso just close to us there. See what is happening recently. Even Niger, recently there were fears or rumors or reports of a coup happening in Nigeria, but that was quashed. You think that actually happened and it was swept under the carpet? And anybody who calls for a military coup or posts about it, that person is tracked, is arrested, is taken by the DSS, and is prosecuted.
Yeah, if a country is entering into a failed state situation, there is always fear that there might be a situation where there will be talk about coup. If the country is doing well and things are going on properly, I believe a lot of Nigerians will not even entertain the idea of a coup. Even the military will not even entertain the idea of talking about coup. The thing is that whenever such stories start coming up, there is always a reason behind it. And if you take a look at the Sahel region, of course, most of the West African countries surrounding Nigeria are beginning to come up with military coups and military leadership in recent times. And of course, that is also sent a signal that Nigeria needs to be very careful. And the fact that our leaders are not stepping up are even making it easy for people to talk about anything that has to do with coup or whatever. I think our leaders need to step up. They need to protect this democracy that a lot of Nigerians fought tears and blood for.
You know, the opposition say Atiku Abubakar took his ADC membership card and said real opposition has begun. If the APC cannot do it, do you think Nigerians can vote them out in 2027? And do you think the opposition can remedy the situation? Do you think the opposition is even serious enough going into the 2027 polls?
The thing is that what I've seen so far is just recycled opposition. Because let's not forget, the opposition we are talking about, Atiku was part of it back in 2015. At the end of the day, what are we seeing 8 years and to more than 10 years after? We've seen it gone worse. So if Atiku is leading another opposition, I think I will also need to be worried, because we're having a recycled situation. We're not seeing new leaders who are going to give us anything different, and we'll just be stereotyped, and we just prey on vibes. And that is not how a country is supposed to lead. We are not building institutions. We are building politicians who will continue to recycle themselves and, of course, do handshake, hand over to each other. At the end of the day, status quo remains, and we pray that something maybe touches their heart to do what is right. Imagine by this time, after so many years of fighting terrorism, kidnapping is not branded as terrorism. Bandits are not, the constitution does not recognize them as terrorists, and they are getting 28 a Boko Haram commander, for crying out loud, getting 20 years. I think the lacuna, I don't know, because those in the corridors of power, because for instance, they've been even, they talk about complicity in terms of the judiciary, the legislature. The legislature have gone comatose since the inception of this new dispensation. They are no longer in the business of making laws that will even at least ameliorate the sufferings of the people, or even make people confident that these people are out there to make laws, to make life easy for Nigerians. They are all out there to take care of themselves. And it's pretty sad that at this point in time, we are still discussing that the legislature should make kidnapping, make banditry, terrorism, and should make it life sentence. I think this is pretty sad.
It's actually the death penalty. Do you think it's time to bring back the death penalty, at least for terrorism? Because we can see that these people are not relenting, and they actually do not have a human heart.
What happened to the order that the president under Buhari gave at the time that any more found with AK-47 should be shot on the spot? We've seen orders like that. I think we don't even need to wait for the legislature. If the president was serious, I think by now he should have given the order to the military that anybody that is caught with AK-47 practicing terrorism or banditry, there should be no form of conversation. The person should be taken out. Then from there, I think you will not even need the judges to waste their time on trying to put the person. Imagine the expenses of taking the person to court every time and there, and even taking care of them in the prisons, which are congested. Of course, even our prisons are not even that strong enough. Let's not forget the Coup prison break, which even increase the number of bandits that are even still terrorizing Nigeria today.
They went to free their brothers in the prison.
So what even makes every Nigerian confident that that man who is serving 20 year sentence tomorrow, the bandits will not go there and break him out, and he will continue from where he stopped?
All right. Because of our time, let's quickly look at the president finally sending the names of 3 ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says the list that he was given contains 3 names for now, but he's sure that others will follow. 2 years and 6 months of this administration with no what I could call international correspondence for Nigeria to even try to launder Nigeria's image on the international scene.
It's a shame. It's a shame and a big slap on the face of so many Nigerians, knowing that we don't have representatives in countries where we're supposed to be represented. Take a look for instance, the American situation. In time past, it would have been easier before this story of a disgraced country and President Trump making that statement. They would have been ambassador in those countries, in like America, to make sure that the image of this country is well taken care of. But I think leadership is not taken seriously, and it's pretty sad that we have leaders who have nothing upstairs to offer, and they're just branded leaders, and they are not even supposed to be classroom rep, not to even talk about leaders when handling very delicate positions. How does a country survive without having ambassadors? A country that is suffering economically, that is even struggling to get investors, and you don't have ambassadors in countries that where you can attract investors. It's pretty sad. They are talking about 3 ambassadors. They are not serious. Leadership is not taken seriously, and Nigerians are suffering for it.
It's quite unfortunate. Jerry Akpelowai, I do thank you so much for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. Thank you very much. You have been listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. We heard that there was a coup in Guinea-Bissau as the military takes over and the president has been arrested. Senate proposes death penalty for kidnappers. President Tinubu sends 3 ambassadorial nominees to Senate for confirmation, and ADC leaders hold closed-door meeting in Abuja. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Chioma Innocent. Good evening and thank you for listening. Please stay tuned. Born to Live is coming up shortly, and then the Evening Rush comes up at exactly 7 p.m.